Yeek. Oi. Bummer. Yeek. Yeek. Yeek, 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 yeek.
This podcast is not suitable for children or those who are easily disturbed. Spoiler warning for whatever is in the title of this episode.
And now for the obligatory socials. Please like, share and subscribe. You can find the podcast on Twitter at HorrorPod69. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Slasher and Goodreads. Become part of the Disturbed community by asking for the Facebook group and Discord links. Send dick pics to the Horror of Babylon podcast at gmail.com. Support the show at patreon.com/the Horror of Babylon. In closing, you can let your friends know that the Horror of Babylon is available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible and all other major podcast apps.
Welcome to episode 116 of The Horror of Babylon, where we discuss The Wastelands. I'm Ryan, and with me, as always, is Jake. No, shut up, boy. Oi, shut up, boy. Go sit in the corner. Jake. Jake's not here. Go away. Daniels, talk.
You're not going to drop me again, are you?
No, I promise. And even then, in the gunslinger's heart, there was doubt.
And Hef's here, too.
Like, why do you need heroin when you have Pepsi?
I agree. I completely agree. Something else I completely agree with is saying thank you to the people in your life, and I want to say a special thank you to our patrons, including Abigail the First, Breaker of Chains, Mother of Dragons, and
Logan,
the Full Metal Patron, and Ben the Fourth, Patron of Hope, and Mia the Fifth, the Rainmaker.
She makes it rain.
Oh, she makes it rain. And thank you to Horsemen Comics and Gaming, which you can visit at Morgantown Mall in Morgantown, West Virginia, the Mall at Robinson in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You can shop online at horsemen.tcgplayerpro.com. And if you make it into the store, beware of the leader of the pubes, Ronald III, Grampus of Christmas. Fun fact, he has no pubes.
Really?
Waxes them on every fortnight.
He's waxed from head to toe.
He has eyebrows, that's it.
I kind of want to believe this is canon.
It is true.
He was also alive in the 70s.
He was. Trigger warning, I didn't write anything down, but there's stuff. There's lots of stuff.
Is it weird if I say mild pedophilia?
I mean, it's like adjacent.
Yeah.
No, I 100% believe that Roland loves Jake.
There's definitely threats of it.
I never thought I'd hear the word boy cunt a lot.
Kingisms. Just horribly, gratuitous kingisms.
Yeah.
And King being about as lewd as he can be in this book.
Yeah.
Yeah, and more racism stuff. Not as bad as the last book, but still, it's there.
I didn't hear Honky Maw as much.
Yeah, but it's there. It is there. Okay, our history with the Wastelands. I read the first two a couple years ago, right after we started this podcast, and I was all ripped, roaring, and ready to read this one. And I bought it back then, and it's been sitting in my Audible library for 2 years, and I occasionally just scroll down my Audible books, and I see that cover, and I used to love the cover of this book. But it's just it's been taunting me for years, building up all these expectations in my head, just seeing the awesome fucking train on the cover of this book, and building up all these grand ideas of what this book would be. And now I finally read it.
This was the next book on our list to cover for the Dark Tower series.
Same.
Okay.
The vampire's a pure myth, superstition. I may be able to bring you proof that the superstition of yesterday can become the scientific reality of today.
Background. This is book 3 of Stephen King's The Dark Tower series. It was originally published September 3rd, 1991. The original limited edition hardcover of this book had full-color illustrations by Ned Dameron, who is the granduncle of the greatest pilot in the galaxy, Poe Dameron, and also is the artist behind the accompanying book, Charlie the Choo Choo. The book gets its title from the T.S. Eliot poem The Wasteland. In fact, several lines from the T.S. Eliot poem are reprinted in the opening pages. Stephen King likes to open every one of his novels from with quotes, normally Bruce Springsteen quotes, but Bruce was absent from this book. And 2 of the main sections of this book, Jake, Fear and a Handful of Dust, and Lud, a Heap of Broken Images, are actual lines from the poem The Wasteland. The Wastelands, the Stephen King novel, was nominated for the 1991 Bram Stoker Award for a Novel. Oh, did it? It won.
It looks like he got nominated for 2 of his books.
Yeah, he also got nominated for Needful Things, and it's in bold, so I think that means he won. So he beat out himself and Dan Simmons, Summer of Night. Sorry, Nick. And the subtitle of this book is Redemption.
And that's that. Another story in the classic, infallible 3-act structure. Good enough for Aristotle, good enough for The Simpsons.
Mr. Sislak, I have a feeling there's going to be one more act to this story.
Well, I'm not hanging around for that. 4 acts.
Structure and themes. Why is the subtitle Redemption?
He was able to save Jake after he failed to save him in the first book, I guess. I mean, that's the simplest answer.
Yeah, I mean, that's the answer I was going to give.
I think that's the answer. Deep commentary and analysis here on the Horror of Babylon, as always.
I have a tenuous kind of thing with this one.
I love Stephen King, but sometimes things are just surface level.
Yeah. What is your tenuous kind of thing?
This book was kind of it was 50-50 for me. There's things I really liked about it, but there's also a lot of other stuff I didn't.
I also greatly struggled with this book. There's some things I like, some things I really didn't like. This book was kind of a slog for me.
It felt like it was 2 books.
I
felt like there was a natural ending point for the story that they were telling, and then it kept going for like 10 more hours.
So I'll tell you, as I was listening to it, I was not paying attention to how far I was in it. And when Jake was drawn and came over into Midworld, I thought that was the end of the book.
And then it goes on for 10 more hours.
I looked at my phone, I said, shit, that's the halfway point?
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't want it to have taken any longer to get Jake over. Mm-hmm. I think that was...
No, I think that maybe it just should have been 2 books.
Yeah.
Two shorter books. But I thought it was funny that in the author's notes at the end, Stephen King is so apologetic for the end of this book, and I thought the end was fine.
Yeah, I'm sorry that I ended the book, but I feel like it just came to its natural conclusion. It came to its natural conclusion 10 hours ago.
But I did feel like that was the natural conclusion of the second book.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah.
But I'm just sitting there like, buddy, you ended this book twice. What are you talking about?
Did people really give him flack for the end of this? I guess in 1991, people couldn't just immediately pick up Wizard and Glass and keep reading. So
I think I have an answer for this.
Okay.
He heard some of the criticism that George R.R. Martin was getting. And he's like, oh no, my books take 2 years to come out. I better apologize.
Uncle Steve, you're fine.
Because he didn't hear how long it actually was.
Okay, so let's talk about genre. So the first 2 books have been a mix mash of genre. I feel like this one leans way more into the sci-fi western aspects than the horror fantasy.
If you change some names around, this could have literally just been a Fallout book.
I was thinking, I've never played Fallout, but I'm familiar with the ambiance of Fallout. The 2 things that kept sticking out to me were Mad Max and Fallout.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. About the only thing that sort of breaks with that is dual worlds and some of the dream stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But that
follows with the previous books.
Yeah, and that kind of... I mean, it does disappear halfway through the book.
Mm-hmm.
What really got me on the sci-fi end was it was a neat blend with the gods that were like at the end of all roads.
The Guardians
themselves, where they're like they're half machine, half organic, like
they're
actual
cyborgs.
creatures. Yeah, and like that was where it really started to pull into like the sci-fi for me. I'm just like, that just felt very strange going into it, because it's kind of the problem I have a lot with this book is I feel like most of this book, when we make jokes about like how Stephen King just like writes, like that's his process, is he just writes.
It writes itself.
This book felt like it wrote itself a lot.
Yeah.
And then there was a robot bear.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the robot bear. We'll get there. There is still a lot of Lord of the Rings in this. And there's a lot of things that feel very Tolkien-ish. And there's some things that are blatantly Tolkien, like making deals with somebody to tell a riddle game to save your life. It's like, wow, could we be a little less on the nose? But that's okay. So let's talk about themes. Each one of us is going to take these primarily and try to explain it, and then the other two can rebuttal and help out. Hef, I'm going to assign you Ka.
I love the snake. That's great.
He is a good snake.
He is a good snake.
So I'm a fan of Sir Hiss as well. But in my mind, they're the same. Same character, just in two different worlds. Not unlike Midworld and Earth, but okay. I'll take Kef, and Daniel, you can take Ka-Tet.
Okay.
All right. Hef. Expose on Ka.
So Ka is, like, if I recall correctly, it's like
the snake from Jungle Book.
It's the snake from Jungle Book. In addition to being in Midworld, the tethers of destiny. So it's like what all of the universe is kind of centralized around, and it kind of gives the, you can't fight your fate kind of thing. You're on a projected path. You have to get to the end of the path, and that's just it's the nature of destiny.
But Ka does not rule all things, Jake.
I mean, it certainly seems to want to.
Roland is like, why is it Ka? Why is this Ka?
Yeah.
Why is this Ka?
It's the
and then
reason
he
for
says,
everything.
but Ka does not rule all things. Like,
Bro.
You're gonna have to pick a line here, buddy.
They did. It's the beam.
Kef, I believe, is the...
He's right there.
Kef is the one of the three that they explained the least on.
I was gonna be honest, I did not remember that word, so I was like, I'm so happy he did.
Yeah, I think he knew that too. Like
I was about to give you Kef, and then I switched. This book is pretty fresh in my head because I finished it 2 hours ago. Kef, I think, and this could be wrong, but is your inner self, and I think that the biggest one for this is Susanna, and she is becoming her true inner self and finding her true Kef as this story goes along. Her inner self is a combination of her two other selves, which we'll talk more about in characters when we talk about Susanna Dean.
Fucking demons.
Fucking demons.
Good
Oh my
news.
God.
The internet is also not real sure what Kef is.
Yeah. Daniel, Ka-Tet.
It's like Ka, but it involves more than one person.
It's Ka-Pet.
Munch on that Ka-Tet.
Destiny's intertwining.
Intertwining a group of people and making them one.
Yeah.
So our Ka-Tet here is
It's the last Jedi, not the Last Jedi's. Rise of Skywalker's Force. There you go.
what in the Force?
I can't remember what it was called with the Kylo Rens and
Kylo and Rey's. They're a. I forgot the word.
yeah. Everybody did.
No, it's just because you're asking me it that I don't know it.
That's what it reminded me of. This entire book reminded me of a strange combination of Fallout and Star Wars.
Three Musketeers approach. Ka-Tet. All for one, one for all.
But we're gonna add like 3 or 4 more.
Dyad. They're Force Dyad.
As a joke. Yeah.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Let's go to characters. And we're going to start with Roland of Gilead. Was the last gunslinger. Roland of Duchesne, the Lord of the...
not be the last gunslinger.
He will not be. He still could be. He might end up being. We'll see. We'll see. I'm kind of interested if the last book ends with all of these characters dying one at a time until Roland's the last one standing.
It kind of feels like it'll be a big cheese if it doesn't, with the way that they build it up. But at the same time, it's like, I mean, you know.
I don't know what the ending is, but I know it's highly controversial and a lot of fans hate it.
I sadly already know what the ending is, so...
I have been lucky enough to avoid it.
I have had some spoilers for Dark Tower, but not that spoiler. I actually had some spoilers today while I was doing this outline, and when I was on the Dark Tower wiki. I was like, oh god, I shouldn't have clicked that link. But that's okay. Yeah. Hef, what do you think of Roland in this book? Has your opinion of him grown or changed compared to the gunslinger in the drawing of the three?
Not really since the drawing of the three. Character growth is not this book's strongest point, because like the second one just does it works so hard at character building and so much depth into the characters. So this one kind of, I think, characters take a little bit of a backseat to start you on the journey.
Stephen King got tired of characters.
I mean, when you take like what is essentially like a book and a half to just get started, I mean, that's I
agree with you, with the exception of Jake.
Yeah, I mean, Jake is the exception on that one, but I mean, that's because we're really getting to know him for the first time. Yeah. But it's still, like, to me, like, there's not a whole lot of character growth for the rest of them. I won't say that there's not character depth, because, I mean, we're starting to understand the personalities of each one as we're going through this book a bit.
I think we're also learning a lot about the group dynamics.
How they interact with one another.
And how Roland and Eddie have this deep respect and love for each other, but they also just butt heads
all the time. Yeah. Well, like we're getting into the idea that maybe, like, in a sense, like reincarnation could be like something that's going on.
If I say it is day, he will say it is night.
I feel like Stephen King was writing Roland in this book and went, I really don't want my main character to be a child murderer. Can I fix that?
Yeah, I think, like, there's a revised edition of The Gunslinger.
Yeah.
And he's been slowly trying to undo some of the things that were done in the initial version of The Gunslinger.
Which I don't know how I feel about, because it was kind of a strong choice.
Mm-hmm.
And even if I don't like a strong choice, I usually end up respecting it more than walking it back.
I did enjoy the original version of The Gunslinger more, but I understand when you're going to base like a 7 to 8 book series around one guy and his quest, I think it's okay to have a protagonist that you don't like, but in a book series that long, it's a lot harder. It's not a 2-hour movie.
Because he was even sort of apologetic for him in the second book, but was trying to make you understand like how important it was that the kid had to die because the tower is what matters.
Yeah, because the tower is the source of all the problems.
And in this book, he's like,
he's still...
Time paradox.
In the second book, he wasn't dealing with this time paradox because it's created in the second book, and now he's dealing with that and the voices in his head. Plus, now he knows that Jake is alive somewhere, somewhen, and he has to deal with that, and he has to deal with that guilt. And the worst part is that Jake is also dealing with this, but he has memory of his own death twice. So as much as he's suffering, Jake is suffering even worse, which makes Roland's guilt even worse.
I do like how this book handles a time paradox. I've never seen it done like that before.
It's very unique.
I'm like, oh, okay, so it literally just splits the minds of the people the paradox affected. I'm like, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I kind of appreciated that take on a time paradox.
I agree.
So.
I don't know how much that. I think it's tough, like you said, it's tough if you're going to make an entire series based on these people. If you start out with your character being kind of an anti-hero and to the point where they do kind of deplorable things, but at the same time they have to gather a posse later. I mean, how else do you, like, you can't make, if they're a good batch of people, like they're trying to do the right thing as far as like whatever the tower is doing, that's really hard to sell, to gather a posse if your main character is just a dick.
I think if I were him, I just would have made Roland's motivation that he really loves bagpipe music and he wants to get to the 7th floor of the tower where they play bagpipes, or a instrument that is very similar to bagpipes.
That would have sold me as a character. That's relatable as hell.
Jake.
Oh my god. I fucking love his school.
Mm-hmm.
He turns in a nonsense paper, and his teacher's like, "Oh, you're so artistic and deep." I was like, "Oh, that's fucking funny."
That was hilarious.
That might be the funniest thing Stephen King's ever done. Like, he takes pot shots at professors all the time,
mm-hmm.
and I'm like, that was another one where
it was
a teacher unintentionally took these schizophrenic ramblings as deep.
It's your take on flow of consciousness writing, which, no, it was just literally a flow of consciousness.
Yeah, he was losing his marbles.
I could have thrown up on this piece of paper and you'd have thought it was genius.
That is so close to being my king, it still might end up being, because I thought that was so funny.
It's really funny. I think my favorite part of this book was Jake's section, up until when he's drawn. We'll talk about that separately. But whereas I really liked Eddie's section, learning about Eddie's life, and then Odetta section, learning about her life, I really enjoyed Jake and this character that I've known about for years. He's in the movie. I've seen the movie. He's in the first book. I've read the first book 2 times. He's mentioned multiple times and has a cameo in the second time. Now, just all these years later, this character I've known since 2017 when I've seen the movie. When I saw the movie, I'm just now actually learning about Jake Chambers for the first time.
His parts, I think, are up there with being the best stuff, because it does, I really like the second one. The second one won me over after being kind of not impressed with the first one. And one of the big things that won me over about it was the drawing itself and the lead up to it, the build up to it. And Jake's story is really the best part of that. And it's even more enthralling because you've already kind of got an idea of what's going on as far as the actual journey to the tower, but Jake being there is excuse me, Jake's part in being there feels like the oddity.
It's unclear what his role is.
Exactly. And so that's kind of your extra bit of mystery.
Is he a gunslinger? Will he become a gunslinger? Is he just there because Roland loves him?
Yeah. Or is he a false idol?
But apparently he is more part of this quartet than even Roland is.
Right. He just knows things. There's things that he knows that he shouldn't know, and there's a little bit of mystery here. And what I really like again is in the second one where they actually brought the characters all together, and them assembling the fellowship is just so enjoyable to me. That's what really hits home in these particular novels. I love the actual bringing together of the group.
Jake,
yeah. His day-to-day life when he's struggling with the time paradox.
Mm-hmm.
I really kind of got into that. Seeing how he interacted with his parents was great too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't got too much. I mean, you guys really covered Jake pretty well.
So this is Stephen King writing a kid post it. So he's got his master thesis on writing children done, and now he's working on this book, and I think he does a great job with Jake.
Yeah, his Stephen King's kids always feel like actual children to me.
Yeah.
A lot of writers, they're written like mini adults, and they might try to throw a slang term in there that they don't really understand.
And some of his earlier books are like that, like Danny Torrance in The Shining.
It's like a mini little adult.
Yeah, he feels like a 5-year-old who's an old man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Charlie McGee, you kind of get some of both, and Carrie also, but it's as he goes on, he gets better at it, and then he peaks with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, he's done really good stuff. Okay, so Jake will come up more as we go. But yeah, I what I really liked was the day-to-day stuff, too.
Yeah.
Okay, Eddie.
I'm liking his character building. There's the comparisons between him and Cuthbert, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I like how they're kind of, King's kind of pushing that to be, Eddie's kind of, finality point is, he may not be, better than Susanna with, like, as being like the actual gunslinger, but as far as like the mentality, he seems to be the one that has the most promise of actually being able to take the instincts and whatnot. And I like that in the first book, like, there's a lot of points when granted I know he's supposed to, but like in the first book, Eddie feels very whiny a lot of the time, and in this book he's very much like started to accept where he's at, what he's supposed to do, who he's supposed to take care of, and you're actually kind of seeing him in some ways kind of become not just a gunslinger, but like just an adult man, and he's like starting to take unto his own.
One of the best ways he does that too is with the flashbacks about his brother always putting down stuff that he used to like to do. He's almost like a kid in this book too, where he's like, I just kind of want to carve this wood, but I'm sort of embarrassed to do. And then Roland's like, good job, Eddie. that is a fine slingshot. And he finally feels praise for the first time over just something he wanted to do.
He was definitively my favorite character in the drawing of the three, and I liked him in this one, but there were also just like period points where I got irritated with him.
Got a little Eddie out.
Well, and it's actually just kind of the opposite of what Hef said. There were points where I just felt like he was too whiny, and the character felt real. Like, I feel like if I was thrown into this situation, there would be points where I was just like, I'm not accepting this. This isn't real. I just want to pretend this fantasy land, like we're going to go to this city and there's going to be nice people there that are going to help us.
Yeah, the elves.
Yeah.
Oh, there's going to be great elves there, and I don't have to do anything.
And me, the reader, I'm just like, just fucking accept it. You're in Roland's world. You're a gunslinger now. Just man up and let's... But... So I guess
I'll say they're going, you got a beautiful black woman. Like,
yeah.
What do you have to complain about?
It's like, God, she's going to wrap her legs around you every night. I'm sorry, man.
She's going to stub you. She goes to kick him and
but no, I did like Eddie, and I do like his character growth, and I also like his relationship with Susanna. The thing that I guess is a little weird, but I'm not complaining, is that usually like in a long series with like two romantically interested characters, there's usually like a courtship process.
No, they just bang.
Yeah, it's like we're married. We're Mr. and Mrs. Dean.
One of the things I'm kind of fearful of, and because I always hate when this happens. I'm going to try to explain it. It may sound a little convoluted. I hate when you make a coupling, and then after a little bit, the coupling starts to unwind because all of a sudden I can't accept this about this person, I can't accept this about this person, and they just kind of split up for a bit. And then they they do the Friends thing where eventually they get back together or whatever like that.
The on again, off again.
Yeah, and I'm really hoping they don't do that, because it's not just because I actually like them together. It's also just because I find that kind of shtick just really annoying.
And that happens to me a lot in sitcoms. Like, by the end of The Big Bang Theory, I didn't give a shit if Leonard and Penny were together. Like, I'm so sick of this.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's gonna happen. Of course, I don't know. I could be wrong. But just like the last thing he says about them in this book is like, and the relationship grew even deeper or something. Like, the way it was written, I don't feel like that'll happen, but we'll see.
Well, this is also like very destiny driven too, so I'm feeling like everybody's here for a purpose, and I'm really hoping that he doesn't.
I really want to find a picture of them carrying Susanna around.
Like how you just.
Oh, you can look it up in the comics.
Oh.
In the comics, she has a giant afro.
Yeah. Oh, I've seen that. I've seen the because I've been picturing like Yoda from Dagobah, but
with Luke, yeah,
but with an afro. Just.
It's weird. I've been picturing Zoe Saldana.
I mean, I still picture Whoopi Goldberg. Eddie's Joe Pesci.
I think when he said Yoda, he meant more the positioning than actual Yoda.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because
Luke carries Yoda on his back.
Oh, okay.
And they have to carry her around sometimes.
And now that's going to be the last memory I have before I go to sleep tonight.
You're welcome.
I'm going to be thinking about Mark Hamill on Daisy Ridley's back.
Hot.
Yeah. So I think if there is a conflict between Eddie and Susanna, I think it's probably going to be her telling him that she's pregnant and he flips the fuck out because he can't be responsible for...
Wait a minute, sex makes babies? He's one of those guys.
Yeah. We're in a fantasy world, Suze. That's way too real.
Is it going to be a no?
This world has Billy Bumblers. We don't have babies.
No, wait, it'll be born a dwarf because she's so much shorter than him.
But she murdered a dwarf in this book.
Oh, yeah, she did.
She did. She shot him in the face.
She shot Gimli.
It still only counts as one.
Still only counts as... okay. So Susanna... Alright, I have a little... I think she's the weak link in this set of characters.
I agree.
And I think it's Stephen King's fault. I see a Fran, like a recurring thing of Fran going on here. So, one, like, there is a lot of potential with this character. She's very cool. She has a very cool story. Like, a woman with split personality disorder who's pulled into a fantasy world, and it forces her two personalities to become a third person, and she's becoming a gunslinger, and she's more naturally talented with guns, and she is also overcoming adversity because she has no legs and she exists in a wheelchair, and she's coming from America in the 1960s where she was a black woman and she faced adversity because of that. And, like, there's a lot of potential for this to be a very, very cool character. The first thing is that Stephen King does a very good job of giving Roland, Jake, and Eddie like equal time in this book, but you spend immensely less time from Susanna's perspective compared to the other three, which would be okay if she wasn't equally as important a character in the quartet as they are. And then the other issue is that she's the biggest, most important thing that she does in this book is fuck.
Not shooting the bear?
I also don't like that.
Okay.
But that's for different reasons. Okay. But yeah, I mean, what stood out to me was fucking the demon. But okay, somebody else talk.
Oh, I thought you meant Eddie. I'd already forgotten about
No,
that.
she has to fuck the demon.
The demon.
Yeah, to say so Eddie can focus on drawing Jake.
Come here, motherfucker. I don't fuck. You don't fuck me. I fuck you.
And also, I thought we were done with that. I thought we were going to be done with all that honky mofo shit, and we're not.
Odetta was my least. Or Detta was my least favorite part of the second book, and the fact that she came back in what to me was probably the worst scene in this whole book, at least worst part of that whole scene. The drawing itself was awesome, but throwing that in there had just...
Would it not have been enough that Jake is getting chased by a house that turns into a demon? Did we have to have the demon sex on top of it?
Yeah, that was too much. That was just too much, and I'm just... And already, like the scene itself, like, had such a good grip on you. No pun intended. I just felt like that whole thing was completely unnecessary.
I'm a melt your ice pick.
And then to bring back what was arguably the worst part of your second book to make it happen, just... Oh, I hated that.
I've been resisting making a meme. You know that, like, that kid with like that angry face where don't talk about X for so many minutes. Do you know the meme I'm talking about?
I do not.
If you showed it to me, I probably would, but no, I don't know it off the top of my head.
Okay, so I've been wanting to make a meme where it has Stephen King's face on there. Stephen King when he can't write a black person as a magical Negro for 5 minutes. Because that's what it reminds me of when I'm reading Susanna. It's like he wants to write his stereotypes and he's trying not to, and then he still doesn't.
But we still have, like, including The Wind in the Keyhole, we still have 5 more books. So there's...
One of those is actually called The Song of Susanna, so yeah. I'm hoping...
Well, that could also be about Roland Susanna.
It could.
Because his first love was Susanna.
Yeah, but I'm hoping there's a parallel there.
Yeah. That is the shortest of the rest of this.
Oh, yes, a short one.
Book 4, Wind and
It's
Glass.
27 hours.
Wolves of Kala is 25, and the last one, The Dark Tower, is 28.
I'm gonna kill myself.
I'm regretting. But the spin-off novel, the Wind Through the Keyhole, is like 10, and then Song of Susanna, which is book 6, is like 15.
Are we doing the spin-off books afterwards, or are we doing them in between?
No, it's one, and like the recommended reading is to read it between 4 and 5, or 5 and 6. I have it on the schedule. It's
okay.
I'm sorry, it's not a spin-off. It's a standalone.
Okay, now I'll just double check before I start like downloading them.
I'm afraid I like Susanna, but I'm afraid we're going to end up with another Franny Goldsmith situation, or worse, because Fran at least didn't have the whole honky mofo thing going on. Daniel, what do you think of Susanna Dean?
I think she's fine. I just think that she has a lot of. Again, that meme keeps coming in my head. Like Stephen King, sometimes it feels like he's trying to purposefully not write a stereotype, and then he's like, maybe just like a little bit. Maybe if I just do one line of cocaine.
Yeah,
that's what it feels like. Like
he's like Professor X making the Powerpuff Girls.
He was going back and going.
Is that his name?
Or no, it's Professor Utonium.
Okay.
The chemical is the.
I was thinking of Xavier, like making the Powerpuff Girls.
I'd watch that.
Yeah, and he's sitting there like, okay, people always criticize me for making like the black characters magic.
Okay.
Or just making the women pregnant, or like racial stereotypes. So he resists it in like parts, and then it still happens.
Yeah, that's another. Her being pregnant at all isn't also calling back to Fran.
So that's what her character feels like to me. Is like Stephen King is struggling against his own preferred writing methods for certain demographics.
But unlike Fran, he has a lot more time to fix it. So we'll see. Okay, the last of our quartet. Oi!
I thought for sure this dog was going to die.
Yake! Yeah, no, I thought he was going to die when they saved Jake.
Yeah, because like I even like when Roland he says you're not going to make it, and I'm like,
the book would have gone in timeout.
I would have put the book down. I'm like, don't. I was like, don't kill the furry gremlin.
Have you guys looked up a picture of Oi?
Yeah, the first thing I did was look up a picture.
He is so cute.
I did not.
Okay,
it's like a dog ferret.
It looks like Galarian Zigzagoon.
Galarian Zigzagoon. Is that the black one?
The black and white one.
So it's like a crazy raccoon looking thing.
So I did not look this up. So this is the comics. I did not.
What?
I did not look this up until the book was over. I was picturing him like a Pokemon. I forget. It's like Mastiff or something. Mastiff and Mabostef. I was picturing him like this.
Yeah.
And then I looked it up, and it's like, oh, he looks like this, which looks like a different Pokemon who looks like this. Yeah. Oi. Yake. Yake.
I have a perfect one of those.
Yeah, I do too.
Nice.
Except mine looks like this now. Gene Simmons.
That's what happens when he fuses with Jake to fight Boo at the end of Dark Tower 5.
Awesome. Okay, Oi's great.
We love Oi.
Let's talk about some villains.
Blaine is a pain.
Blaine the Mono.
He is my favorite character.
He's my favorite villain so far. I have a lot of problems with this book, but I think I actually like where you were talking earlier, where he was apologizing for like the ending of the book. I think that that's one of the better ways that like I actually thought the book could end. Like I thought that was just an awesome point to leave on. And I'm a sucker for like, beat the brain at the mental game. I love like scenarios like that, and I like high stakes stuff. So like to me, like ending the book there was just like, well, now I fucking gotta read the next one. Like that just left it off at such a high point for me. And Blaine being just like crazy also helps, because like sometimes I just like villains that are crazy.
I like AI that is deteriorated over time.
I like sometimes like
it's very 2001: A Space Odyssey.
I like crazy that doesn't have to be justified.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't get that a lot, because like we exist in kind of a modern day thing where like if you're evil, there's a reason you have to be evil. Like there was something that made you.
His only reason is his brain has rotted over time.
Yeah. Sometimes like just let the thing be crazy to be crazy, and that's why I like Blaine, like rolling this a lot. So like that was a high point for me. I was a big fan of that.
This is not the train that is described in the book.
It doesn't look anything like.
No,
he's upset because it doesn't look like.
I have been looking at this cover for years, waiting to read this book.
You wanted the skull train,
and one, it takes them forever
to get to
the and then it's not like
It should have been 2 books. I stand by that.
I agree. Blaine is pink.
Yeah, they got the colors wrong.
Look at this train.
Do they have a Blaine for the comics?
Probably.
Oh, just to like add commentary. The lead up to Blaine, like where they're like actually in.
He's pink.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah, where they're actually in the city, like, and they're dealing with all the like crazy people in the city. I was like, please, let's get past this. Like
that was the low point of the book.
It's the low point of the book. It just went on.
It took forever.
It went on forever.
So from when Jake got kidnapped till basically like the resolution of that, I was really having trouble paying attention. So much so that I went back and read a summary of it because I just didn't get stuff, like, because I just wasn't paying enough attention to it.
I didn't mind them meeting the other people and having some, like, learning about the world. Mm-hmm. I didn't mind that. It was after they left there and then got to the city.
No, yeah.
Up until they got to Blaine.
I liked the dinner party they had with the people at River Crossing or whatever it was called. It's after, and I like the scene on the bridge. Mm. It's after he gets kidnapped and just them, like, running through the city where I was just, like, totally, like, zoning out.
Yeah.
That's also probably the most Falloutiest part of the book, too.
It is.
Where you got, like, the Raiders, and there's different factions of them.
The Greys and the Pubes.
And then some of them are, like, living down in vaults and using old technology.
They're basically all ghouls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
None of these covers. It's like they commission these art, and, like, people don't read the book. Or it's just like a pink... Or they're just like a pink train. You can't put a pink train on the cover of this book.
Those are like the monsters they were seeing outside.
Oh, I forgot. We were supposed to look at these. Okay, so here's Eddie running away from Shardik, which we will fucking get to that.
Yeah.
Here, look how long Roland's legs are.
I didn't know that...
He looks like Slender Man.
I didn't know Ash Williams was in the Dark Tower.
Oh, like, it's worse. Like, some of these are...
Oh my god, she's just on his shoulder.
Some of these are really bad. I think this is, like, one of the worst illustrations for a book I've ever seen.
It's Bruce Campbell.
That is so rigid, and it's just, like, it doesn't look like a...
It's not very dynamic.
No.
Is this, like, actually in the book?
No, this
the
is
original,
like the collector's edition.
Well, the original hardcover had them.
That's not so bad.
Yeah, that one's better. Like, but look at
big,
this fucking like rainbow shirt that Eddie's wearing.
That's actually kind of close to what I pictured. That's kind of cool.
Look how tall Roland is. Like, it's fucking weird.
Now I'm going to go emancipate the United States and free the slaves.
Come here, boy cunt.
Oh, I hated that whole thing. I hated everything about that guy.
Yeah.
I hated everything about him.
This is 100% Mordor. With a monorail.
Oh, there's their version of Blaine.
The Mordor monorail.
Yeah.
It looks like a spaceship.
His translucent. And these are the fucking pterodactyls.
Oh, the pterodactyl
he mentioned
legs.
it like one paragraph at the end of the book.
Like, there's just mutated monsters because everything's affected by radiation.
Okay, let's keep going. Blaine, the TikTok man.
He needed a timeout.
I hate that I keep bringing it up, but he was 100% a Fallout villain.
He was.
I'm the boss of these raiders, and I'm going to act extra psychopathic and pretend like I understand this technology, even though I don't.
Yeah. You are not Mr. House. Get out of my book.
Yeah.
But then, at the end of the book, the return of our true villain, Randall fucking Flagg.
When My Life for You came up, I was like, TikTok, you're a new trash can.
You're the new trash can man.
I was listening.
He probably looks more like Ezra Miller, too.
I was in my car, like, I finished this up, I think, last week, and whenever I knew what was happening in that scene, like, I audibly went to nobody in my car, "That's fucking Flagg," and then I looked over at an empty seat to tell somebody it was Randall Flagg, and I'm like, I can still appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was
so
like, all right.
Yay, he's alive. Which
Yeah.
I don't think anybody really believed
he's still
he was
goofy
dead.
as fuck. Like,
Yeah, he is.
I don't know. I'm kind of in that same thing where I'm like, based on previous flags that I've had, I'm like, this could really go either way. I'm going to be totally on board, or
He's the wizard, and he had roses all over his face.
yeah. Picturing that in my head was funny.
He's got a beard of roses.
I just imagined like
Goes down on a girl and leaves petals on her thighs.
I just imagined Full Metal Alchemist, their mentor, her husband. I just imagined him with roses in his beard. The
girl with the dreads.
Yeah, her husband, the real big beefy dude. Yeah.
I
imagine
vaguely
like
remember that person being a character.
I just remember in my head it's slender, just dude, and then for some reason that guy's head with roses in his beard. Like that's mentally what I put there.
I'm having trouble picturing that character.
He's just in a black shirt, he's just real beefy. He's not like he's not cut like Armstrong.
I'm picturing Armstrong with black hair.
Kinda, except he's got like a beer gut.
I'll kill you all! I'll drive you crazy, and I'll kill you all on every nightmare you ever had. I am your worst dream come true. I'm everything you ever were afraid of.
Is this book scary?
I'm kind of afraid of being raped by a dude with syphilis.
Yeah.
So that's
what did they call it? Like whore's plague or
like whore's blossoms, I think.
Something like that. Yeah. But what's his face? He was butt buddies with that other guy who wrote down the password for him. TikTok man actually says they're butt buddies.
I'm scared because I don't really have the genitalia to keep a demon inside me if I ever need to actually keep it from going anywhere.
Jake would just stay where he is. I'd be like, sorry, dude.
Yeah.
I ain't fucking no demon.
I don't think I'm that strong.
I was expecting Roland to be a little less
blasé about it.
No, because he's like, I'm trying to think of the word heteronormative. To be a little less heteronormative about that situation where he's like, if it is a female demon, I will take it. If it was a male demon, I was like.
Well, she also says, well, what if it likes both? And he says, we'll take it together then.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, never mind.
He's like, I'm okay with the double team, but it better be into both of us.
Yeah.
He's like, I ain't gonna fuck a demon that doesn't want it.
You know what? It in my brain, if that was what happened instead, I'm not
better.
I feel like it would have been better, but at the same time, so much worse.
I don't know. I wanted all of it gone.
Eddie would have looked over. He probably couldn't see the demon, and it would just look like fucking Roland's humping the air over his wife.
Yeah, just dick out, just like going down.
He's not fucking his wife.
She's not taking
on the ground,
but she's also not taking it. But she's still taking it. And I just imagine Eddie with like carving his fucking key over there, just being like,
"I need this to be over.
I need this to be done." I'm
still picturing Idris Elba.
I'm still picturing like an emaciated Clint Eastwood.
And Jake sees a poster of Clint Eastwood and say, that kind of looks like Roland in this book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want Jake to come out as that's still happening, and that's what he sees as soon as he gets into the new world, and he's just like, I think I might just go get eaten by the wall. I don't think I want to be a part of this.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about like some of the monsters. Like, the wall monster was better than what was going on the other side of that door, but I didn't think it was that great either.
Yeah. Are we talking about the bear? Like, the bear's like, because the bear to me is like, my sci-fi brain says awesome concept, but such a poor delivery.
So when that started and and Roland was telling about Shardik and like the lore behind him and how he just leaves a clearing of like dead trees behind him and like it was so cool. And then when Shardik gets to their camp and Eddie climbs a tree to escape an 80-foot bear, I was so pissed. I was like, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, what's next? You gonna have a sniper spot and then a headless horseman's gonna be chasing you? Fucker.
I was like, okay, maybe it's figurative. Maybe he's not actually 80 feet tall.
But he is.
But he is. And like that's the first thing like they say about bear safety is like don't climb a tree to escape.
Because bears can climb trees.
But this one's 80 feet tall.
It doesn't need to climb. It just push the tree down.
And it says in the book that he gets 15 feet above the bear, which means that Eddie shimmied up a tree 95 feet bullshit.
He started a little bit of that crackhead energy.
I don't believe it. And it says that the tree is 8 feet wide. So, okay, it's a thick tree. But I still think an 80-foot tall bear could push down a tree that big. And he just happened to be next to the tallest tree in the forest. I mean, I was just pissed. I was so pissed.
The circumference of that tree being 8 foot, in addition to him trying to, like, grab onto branches and shit, while the 80-foot tall bear is coming to get him, what'd you do, slide up it? I mean, how do you do this?
I will also say that, like, when I realized it was supposed to be a little satellite dish on its head, I thought that was the goofiest shit.
Yeah. I wish it just would have been a bear. Like, obviously,
I would have even been okay with it being a cyborg if, like, you just shot it in the head and then
shoot the hat, shoot its little hat.
Shoot its little hat.
It's literally like a satellite dish on its brain hole.
And I will say, without spoilers, that I know a little bit about the lore of the Beams and the Guardians and how they relate to all of the other Stephen King books. And we're going to learn more about this, and it's a bigger thing than it is in this book. The whole thing is kind of frustrating, but we'll get to it more down the road. So yeah, I just wasn't happy with that whole thing. But I thought it had such a cool lead up. Like the Shardik, he's lived in this forest and ruled it for thousands of years. And he's had, I love the descriptions of his conflicts with the people who used to live in the forest, and the description of like where he lived, and the ground was so padded down due to his enormous mass that grass didn't even grow there. It's super Tolkien, super cool, giant, enormous, evil bear. It's a robot and has a little satellite dish hat, and I was mad. I was super mad. I thought the description of the mutant bees was cool.
I don't even remember the description of the mutant bees. I didn't remember those at all. What was that?
So they found honey, and they're like, oh, we're going to get to eat honey. And then they saw, like, bees that were super deformed making the honey. They're like, oh, they're radioactive. We can't eat the honey.
I checked out. I think a little bit on that. That's my biggest thing about this book, is there's just so many parts of this book I just kind of checked out.
I think if I ever, and I probably will, but like years down the road, I will probably reread this series, and I'll probably like this book a lot more on a second read. Probably because I'll pick up a lot of stuff that I didn't the first time, because I was just like spaced out for a lot of it. Okay.
The problem for me was the parts that were uninteresting just went on for so long. Like, and this book is so thick, so long, and it just takes forever to get through anything. So the high points are really good, but these low points just, like, it's not even that they're the lowest low points that you've read, but they just take forever to get to the good stuff.
Yeah.
And that's my biggest problem with this book.
It's like maybe the only book that I would ever recommend. Well, maybe check out the abridged version.
I would just tell people, listen to it in halves.
Yeah, and one of my biggest issues, a lot of the issues I had were me issues, like, and I really struggled with the fact that I felt like I had to read it instead of that I wanted to read it.
Yeah.
And I do want to read it, and I did want to read it, but I couldn't do it on my own time, at my own pace. I was like, nope, I gotta get through this, gotta listen to it, even though I'd rather do something else. Nope, I gotta read this now, and that made it hard.
That is my current feeling reading the next one. I can't remember its name. I started it today.
Wizard and Glass.
Yeah. I will say it has a great, like, a strong opening.
I thought it had I like the way it ended. I like the making the deal with Blaine was, like, to me, the perfect way for someone like me to set up. You want to read the next book.
That went up my train.
Yeah. Very high stakes, and I like, if I'm going to be reading a series like that, like, give me a reason to start the next one.
Oh my God, are you Stephen King? No, I'm Dean Koontz. Oh.
King and Koontz, what's your king?
I have to leave my book in the car. My king is actually just like the finale of this book. I actually think the finale is like, I have not had many series with which I have read where I get to the end of the book and I immediately think I have to read the next one. the Blaine scene and them getting the high stakes of everything is like I'm actually super pumped to start, and I'm going to start on Monday because I'm ready to start the book. So like that the finale was what I think is my king.
Jake in the bookstore. I love that. I want to go to that bookstore.
That does sound cool.
I also want to go to that bookstore. My king is...
I want to pay the money he paid for books at a bookstore.
Yeah. I just really like the how he handled the time paradox.
It's really cool.
I think that's probably one of the more unique things in this book that I just really enjoyed.
Hiya! Happy Easter!
Oh, Koontz.
Yep.
If and you could.
If and I could. The book, there's so many points where the book just drug so badly, and what got me, I think the worst part of it is just like the getting to Blaine, and that's so close to the end of the book.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just looking at that time on the books, and I'm just like, I'm almost there. Just get through this dumb shit. I'm almost there. This book just has a lot of like lull points where I just stopped paying attention.
The bear pissed me off. The train pissed me off. The lull points pissed me off. But I think the biggest issue I had with this book was me. One, feeling like I had to read it instead of wanting to read it. Two, I had a lot of expectations about this book. After years of building it up in my head, it was never going to be what I thought it was going to be.
He thought it was going to have skull trains the whole time.
I thought, because even the way that Stephen King describes it in his author's notes from the Drawing of the Three, he says it's half of the journey to the Dark Tower. I thought that this was going to be like a journey across the wastelands, and they were going to use the train. It was going to be them like journeying across a desert and using the train to do that, and they're going to be like parts where like marauders try and take the train from them, and they have to fight them off, and they have stops where they come to villages, and like some of this stuff happens, but like, why is this book even called The Wastelands? Like, they don't visit the Wastelands until like the last 10 pages.
That's the twist of the book, is this is the waste. They thought they were in the Wastelands, and this is what the Wastelands really... That's how fucked up the world really is.
So those two, plus my third and maybe the biggest meta issue is what Hef just described for his king is what I just experienced with book 5 of the X-Wing series. I've been reading the X-Wing series as they've been coming out in the Essential Legends collection, and before the Wastelands, I finished book 5, and it was just like this mind-blowing, awesome ending, and I want to read book 6 so bad, but I can't. I had to read the Wastelands, and now I have to read No Be So Fierce and then get on Wizard and Glass, and maybe I can read X-Wing.
Do you read on 1.5 speed?
Mm-hmm.
No, I got through No Be So Fierce a little while ago. I think it comes down to 6 hours.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that book at all.
Yeah,
I'm more worried about Wizard and Glass.
Yeah, when I saw the time.
Yeah, oh yeah. See, I'm
already done with No Beast So Fierce. And I saw the time, and I was like, oh god.
I'm starting Monday, and I'm like, this is gonna be a very, very long thing.
Yeah, I'm probably what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna read like I am assuming Wizard and Glass is broken up in 2 books. I'm probably gonna read book 1 of Wizard and Glass, and then read No Be So Fierce, and then read book 2 of Wizard and Glass, and then maybe start this X-Wing book and just kind of try and break it up. Okay, what's your Koontz?
It should have been 2 books.
It should have been 2 books. Okay, rankings. This is my least favorite of the 3 so far. Drawing the 3 is my favorite. I thought The Gunslinger was better than this book. But where exactly do I rank The Wastelands? It's my new number 21, below The Bone Farm and above Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
The Bone Farm.
That's what Eddie calls it when he goes to bed with Susanna. Daniel, where do you put The Wastelands? You got Drawing of the 3 at 18, Gunslinger at 20.
And it's below that.
Is it better than Carmilla?
No, that has lesbian vampires.
Is it better than The Bone Farm?
No, that's Dean Koontz's good book.
Is it better than Watchers?
No, that's Dean Koontz's almost good book. I think I'm going to put it right above Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
Yeah, your new number 24, below Watchers and above Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
I think it goes...
And again, you can see our rankings. There's a link in the show notes to our Google Drive so you can take a look at our rankings.
I think mine goes Below the Mist.
So it's your new number 11, Below the Mist, and the only one of us to rank this book above The Bone Farm, which means, Hef, you are a pariah. You are not welcome here anymore. The Bone Farm is so much better. I'm kidding. It's fine.
I haven't read that one in a very long, or listened to it, because that was an audio only one, wasn't it? Yeah. I haven't.
Well, maybe since then they've done a printed one, but when it came out, it was audio only.
It was interesting, but I try real hard to be like...
We had a really good time on that episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, read it alone.
Hello, Mr. Stein.
Hello, Mr. Black.
Who's that?
He's the new drama teacher.
Zombie Day, Oz the Great and Terrible.
Yeah.
My Life for You. The Turtle.
I caught the turtle reference.
I was not making notes on this book, unfortunately. Were there any that you guys noticed that I missed? Upcoming on the Horror of Babylon, next Sunday, we are reading Charlie the Choo Choo by Beryl Evans. And then the following Sunday, March 17th, St. Patty's Day, we will be... Just don't even listen. Just do St. Patrick's Day stuff, because we're reviewing Sleepy Hollow by Tim Burton. So just do St. Patrick's Day stuff. It's
the leprechaun.
And then our next two Thursday episodes... this coming Thursday, March 7th, we are reviewing The Princess Bride, and then the film, and then the next Thursday, the 14th, we are doing Leprechaun. Both of those are 4 Horsemen episodes. So thank you for sponsoring that. And speaking of saying thank you to our patrons, Abigail the First, Breaker of Chains, Mother of Dragons, and
Logan,
the Full Metal Patron, and Ben, the 4th Patron of Hope, and Mia the 5th, the Rainmaker.
She makes it rain.
Oh, she makes it rain. And thank you to 4 Horsemen Comics and Gaming, which you can visit in the city of Lud, below the burned out train station, where you can find the proprietor Ronald III in his melted skin, below his mask with Fezzik, and he's like, I knew this makes sense, you wear a mask because you have a melted skin. And they're worshipping a nuclear warhead, because the wastelands beneath the Planet of the Apes and Princess Bride just is the combination that we all wanted. We all need it.
That's the one we desired.
But if you can't make it to the city of Lud, you can find them in the Morgantown Mall in Morgantown, West Virginia, or at the Mall at Robinson in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And you can shop online at 4horsemen.tcgplayerpro.com. And gentlemen, thank you for slogging it through the wastelands with me and recording.
Slogging with you.
Hopefully, Wizard in Glass. So is that Randall Flagg in Glass?
I don't want to spoil it.
I bet it is, because this is the one that's all about Roland's past. So and Flagg was Martin. So yeah, I bet it is. Okay. Thank you for reading the book. Thank you for recording. Thank you to our patrons. Stay tuned for our socials, and stay scary.
Stay scary, everybody.
Stay scary, folks.
Say stay scary, Sheldon.
Oi.
Oi.
Oi. Jake. Jake's not here. God damn it, Oi. Hef, can you take Oi out for a leak?
Yeah,
All right.
I got it.
Scary.
And now for the obligatory socials. Please like, share, and subscribe. You can find the podcast on Twitter at HorrorPod69. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Slasher, and Goodreads. Become part of the Disturbed community by asking for the Facebook group and Discord links. Send dick pics to the Horror of Babylon podcast at gmail.com. Support the show at patreon.com/the Horror of Babylon. In closing, you can let your friends know that the Horror of Babylon is available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, and all other major podcast apps. Stay scary.
Yake! Find Jake. Yake!
Best character.
Best character.
Oh, second best.